Previous video we just completed the addition of this projecting little wall on the parting line that meets up with the upper fender. We used this surface here, which was an upward copy of the splitting surface, an upward copy offset of 0.03 inches. We used that to trim down the height of our wall that was originally a projection from a plane way up here. So we made that surface, trim that down, and the last step for phase 4 is to combine all the bodies. I can go ahead and hide this surface, and we see our results. You can see that because I added this short little extension here in my sketch, this little perimeter wall is nicely blending right into my fender wall. This is happening both here and back here as well. The last step is to add some draft angles and some final fillets. When we created this rib, we went ahead and extruded it with draft, so we don't have to add any draft to it after the fact. However, this wall here we purposely made without any draft because of some of these complex interactions that were occurring in these areas. Now we can go ahead and add draft and get some clean transitions between the walls. Before we do that, we also want to add some fillets going between these various fender liners. Actually, I'm going to take that back. We're going to add the fillets last. So the first step here in phase 5 is to add draft to this wall, this wall, this wall, and then these 3 outside surfaces of those walls as well. To do this, we're going to use what's called neutral plane draft. The neutral plane is a plane that the draft grows or shrinks from. Since these ribs don't have a flat plane down at the bottom, but they do have a flat plane pretty close to the bottom, which is close to the center, which is actually at the center of the axle, we will use a plane going through the axle that all the draft will shrink from in this direction and grow in this direction. To do this, we will select the draft feature. Neutral plane is the default, and we need to select a plane that the draft will be created from. So our neutral plane, in this case, is my top plane, which is what goes right through the axle. And the direction of the arrow indicates the direction that the part will grow smaller with draft. So above the arrow, the wall will get thinner. Below the arrow, the wall will actually get thicker. The faces I want to draft are going to be these 3 inner faces, these 3 outer faces. I'm going to bring this into a top view so we can see what happens to the walls when the draft gets applied. Hit the green check mark. We see now that the upper edges of the walls have actually moved inward, making the walls thinner up at the top. I'm going to roll this back. I'm going to zoom in a little bit and roll it back. You can see that the wall actually gets slightly thicker than before at the bottom. So this edge down below moved out slightly, and this edge here moved out in this direction. That's because those 2 edges are actually below the neutral plane. Anything above the neutral plane gets smaller, anything below drafts in the opposite direction. To finish off this part, just going to add some fillets on some of the sharp corners. Fillet these inside wall corners, fillet the outside wall corners, and then finally the last step that completes phase 5. Last step is just delete any unneeded bodies, such as our wheel and our axle and any leftover surfaces, and then resulting in just one final finished solid body, which is our fender. This completes this entire tutorial.